Hey everyone, welcome to the Killed Off Screen podcast. My name is Joe, and I'm joined by my friend, co-host, and staunch minor man, Prentice.
Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast with the best horror news and reviews. Today we are going to talk about My Bloody Valentine, the original from 1981. But first, Joe, we have just so much news this week.
We do. We got a shit ton. Do you wanna start us off?
Yeah, so Joe yesterday evening watched, not to date this episode, but I've dated this episode. Joe yesterday evening watched Lisa Frankenstein. And my first bit of news has to do with Lisa Frankenstein. And I don't know if you knew this before you watched it. It's set in the same universe as Jennifer's Body.
I don't know. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, same director, I think. Maybe same writer. But yeah, they've confirmed it's same universe.
Oh yeah, I think it is the same writer. It's definitely not the same director because it was Karen Kusama for Jennifer's Body, and this one was Zelda Williams. But yeah, I think it is the same director, which kind of checks out after getting out of the theater and thinking about it a little more, putting that comparison together. Yeah, that kind of checks out.
Well, yeah, for sure. And then I got one more piece of news. This is the big one for me this week. Dan Trachtenberg, director of two gigabangers in Prey and 12 Cloverfield Lane, which is one of my favorite thrillers, is coming back for Badlands, which is another solo Predator movie, and I'm excited for this. I want Predator to be good again, and I want it to be consistently good again, and I think Dan Trachtenberg can do that.
Yeah, apparently it's this and Prey 2. So I think it's a situation where they already greenlit two new movies. I think it's kind of a situation like with X by Ty West, they did Pearl, and they're doing Maxine. So I think there's a bit of a double sequel kind of thing. One might be a prequel to that, but either way, two new installments. That's what I mean to say. And yeah, Prey was pretty great. It exceeded my expectations. I liked the back to basics kind of approach. And yeah, I thought it was really good. It's like a solid 7 in my book. And when I saw the announcement, my first thought was like, please, for the love of God, tell me Dan Trachtenberg is back for it. And he is. So I'm excited.
So here's my question. My understanding of it is the same as yours. I think that this is an independent movie from Prey 2. It's a different Predator standalone movie. So
Right.
let's operate under the assumption that Badlands is not a working title, but it's the actual, like, either subtitle. It'll either be called like Predator Badlands or just Badlands, similar to like Predators or Prey, I guess. When you hear the title Badlands and you're told it's a Predator movie, what do you think is going to come out of that? Because I've been thinking about this, and Prey didn't give a ton away. I think Predators, of all the Predator movies, is the one that kind of gave the most away about what the plot of the movie would be, title-wise. It's going to have multiple Predators. So when I think of Badlands, like, time setting-wise, location, like, does that give you anything?
I mean, not really, and it's probably designed to be that way. It kind of gives me a little bit of a visual, because you mean time period, the setting, where it's going to be. Yeah, it just kind of gives me a vibe kind of like Prey. Like, I just think Badlands, and I don't know, I just think like long, like open fields and everything, kind of like the Native American setting. Mm-hmm. I think it was the Comanche tribe that we followed in Prey. And it just kind of gives me a vibe like that. Maybe the Serengeti or something. I don't fucking know. But yeah, just something like that.
You see, I think Serengeti, that actually might be, like, that'd be fucking awesome. If it was like the Zulu warriors fucking fighting predators, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the only thing that I could kind of connect it to was maybe Predators versus Cowboys. Like Wild West, kind of sundown, saloons, deserts, that kind of whole deal. And I think that could be interesting as well, because I think we haven't really seen the Predator in kind of a sparsely populated area. He's always been like in the jungle or in the forests or in like a big city with tons of places to hide. So I'd love to see a kind of a different take on a Predator where he's out in the fucking deserts of Arizona and it's just flat for miles, and we have to see how a Predator is a little less of a stalking hunter and more of like a gunslinger kind of mano a mano type deal the whole time. I think I'd love that.
Yeah, is that next in the evolution?
Yeah.
I would like to imagine that is what it is, and Dan Trachtenberg just walked in to pitch that and just slapped his giant dick down on the table full of executives and was like, all right, Tombstone meets Predator, and they just greenlit it.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Oh, I'd love that. Okay, so you must have more news, because there was so much this week.
Yeah, the other night, I saw a trailer, the second trailer for Imaginary, which I believe is Blumhouse. If not, it could definitely be one. It looks like it, which is to say, not very good. Yeah, I feel bad always judging off of a trailer. I always want to keep an open mind until I really sit down and watch the movie itself, but my god, that looks horrible. That's one where like I'm tempted to walk away just from seeing the trailer and already announce like Imaginary is the worst horror movie of 2024. It just looks like Mithrigan again, even the beginning with like the fake commercial aspect that they did at the beginning of Mithrigan. I think it's a lot of the same crew. It just feels like they wanted to make the same movie again, but just put like a different animatronic in there, and that's it. Yeah, it looks really shit. And what also seems really shit is the new Winnie the Pooh. Everybody's
there's another one.
Yeah, I can just hear the excitement in your voice. Yeah, I'm equally as excited for that. Hey, I warned you. I want to reference that one because we were DMing about this a long time ago. This is in like 2022 or some shit, and I want to reference the Hot Fuzz joke and reference that I made, where I was like, if we don't come down hard on these clowns, we're going to be doing our balls in shitty public domain slashers. And here we are in 2024. We got like a Steamboat Willie thing coming out, and we can't even keep track of all this bullshit.
Okay, I'm of the opinion that anything can be good. These won't be. These are going to be bad.
I mean, yeah, sure, anything could be good. That's not really an argument. Anything could be good.
Yeah. And anything can be dog shit, like these movies will be.
Yeah, how's that for film analysis?
Yeah, look, sometimes my genius is truly staggering. All right. So we saw some trailers this week as well. So the big one I think for you and for me is Longlegs got a trailer coming out from Neon.
Yes.
Nick Cage playing a serial killer. There seems to be some sort of religious or cult tones there. But that just looks, man, that trailer doesn't give anything away, which I love. It's pure vibes, which I also love. And it just looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, they actually played that in the theater last night while I was there.
Hell
I was
yeah.
really fucking hyped for that. Yeah, Longlegs. I can't believe I didn't mention that for the last episode, because that trailer was out before we recorded the last episode, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think so. I think it was like the 2 nights after.
That'd be nice. It'd be less embarrassing for me because of how hyped I've been for that movie. So I'm just going to go with that, and I'm going to assume you're right. But
Because I think I sent it to you. I think I saw it, and I was like, damn, we should have recorded a few days later.
Yeah, that's easily my most anticipated one of the year so far, of all the ones where we've gotten either a release date or just like a working project or a trailer. Longlegs is my number one that I'm really looking forward to, so we'll be awaiting that. I don't believe we have a release date yet. I think at the end of that trailer it just says like coming soon. Yeah, so we don't have one yet.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love the mystery. There's just so much mystery around that movie. All the different trailers for it, all the teasers have been great. They did like a release, like a rollout of posters from like 5 different Twitter accounts, which were all super cool. Like Neon is on top of it with this movie. And I think I'm also optimistic, not to move us on too quickly, but I think we're going to talk about Longlegs a lot for the next couple months as we get closer to it. But Neon had another trailer this week, a teaser, about 30 seconds for Cuckoo, or Cuckoo, depending on where you are in the world and how you decide to pronounce things, starring Hunter Schafer of Euphoria fame. I can't fucking tell what this movie's about, but it looks dope. I'm excited. Hugely good vibes. Neon is just killing it in the trailer game right now.
Yeah, it's very creative. Not to backtrack too much for Longlegs, I did want to say I was liking the different aspect ratios in the trailer, like the kind of lo-fi, sort of rounded edge, almost 1-to-1 kind of footage, and then the typical, widescreen format, which I assume the 1-to-1 is going to be like old videotapes or something, maybe flashbacks, and then of course the widescreen footage will be the present timeline that will follow throughout. But that's all I really had for Longlegs. Yeah, this one I actually was not tracking. But again, it's neon, so I'm going to assume a decent level of quality at least. Again, they're not quite at A24 to me, but they're definitely like miles beyond Blumhouse.
For sure. And I'm excited to see Hunter Schafer's really good in Euphoria. And I'm excited to see her in more things. I think she has the makings of like a really unique scream queen. And the last couple years, we've just been kind of hitting a gold mine of kind of unique scream queens. So I'd love to see her break out and become one as well. And I've got one more trailer, and that's my last bit of news. But I watched a trailer yesterday night. It was like almost midnight when I watched it, and not my smartest move, because this trailer actually really got to me in a way that I'll talk about it first. It's Late Night with the Devil. It's starring David Dashmalchian, who is one of my favorite modern actors. It's a live, in quotes, television broadcast that went horribly wrong, and it got like hidden away, and now the tape is being revealed. That's kind of there's like a narrator over the trailer, like in an old timey way, like it was a 1977 horror movie, which I love. The vibes are incredible, and it really just unsettled me in a way that a scene in Nope did, which I don't want to get too far into spoilers on that movie because we're probably not going to talk about it ever, and it's really good and people should watch it. But there is a television set scene in that movie for people who've seen it, which really unsettled me, and I know a lot of people really enjoy and thought was harrowing. And it doesn't seem like it's that kind of plot for this movie, but it had that kind of harrowing vibe of like something going seriously wrong in this kind of television world. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, it sounds kind of found footage, like in terms of the presentation from what you're describing. But yeah, it sounds very interesting. It's a pretty intriguing idea. I want to look that up now after this, once I get the opportunity. So none of those have release dates to my knowledge, but what does is Alien Romulus, which you were probably tracking since you're a big Alien fan. I know that's like your top two, with Cabin.
Love Alien.
It's
Cabin.
directed by...
I love Cabin, but it's not top two.
Oh, I thought you said it was. I thought you said like that and Cabin were like
no,
your top two.
No, it's the thing. The thing's on top of everyone's horror list, and the thing is on top of mine too. It's a goated movie. Yeah, Cabin's definitely in my top 5 though. That's entirely fair to say. Alien is my number 2.
And I know you love Alien, and so this one directed by Fede Alvarez, who did the 2013 Evil Dead remake and the 2016 movie Don't Breathe, which I like quite a lot. I think a little more than most people. And yeah, he directed this, and it'll be out August 16th. And when it comes to Fede Alvarez, I am not a big fan of just his producer work. He, of course, was a producer for Don't Breathe 2.
Gross.
Which, to my understanding, was not quite as good. That was directed by the writer of Don't Breathe, or a co-writer. Either way, they stepped into the director's chair for Don't Breathe 2, and it was pretty underwhelming, from what I understand. I didn't really watch it. I wasn't super interested. Maybe I should go back to it at one point and actually watch it for myself, but it kind of came and went. It didn't seem to hold any place in anybody's memory. And then, of course, he helped produce the god-awful, abhorrent 2022 Texas Chainsaw movie.
Oh. Your hate for that movie is amazing.
It is, and that leads me to my next bit, which is about another announced Texas Chainsaw movie. This is not confirmed. I promise there's a reason I'm bringing up, even though it's not confirmed, but Texas Chainsaw Legacy is the working title. It is a proposed movie, and I'm bringing this up because with this and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, all right, look, here's my stance. I'm obviously a big fan of the original, right? It's in my top 3 of all time, firmly. One of my all-time favorite movies, and it's not a problem where Texas Chainsaw is like The Godfather, where it's so holy or so sacred as a movie where you're just not allowed to touch it or remake it or try to make new installments to it now. It's just a problem where that original one from 74, like it really, really lives and dies on that 70s aesthetic, that very gritty, raw look and sound. And you just can't do that now. You just can't. Like when you have all this kind of shiny digital, like Texas Chainsaw doesn't work for it. Like you just, it's not a problem that you can't because it's so sacred. It's just that in general, it's a bad idea. Like it inherently now is a bad idea, and it's like trying to mix oil and water, and you should just try to do something else.
They've got to find a way to... They've got to do one of two things, I think. They've got to find an effective and innovative way to modernize it. I don't think they can take... Well, they're obviously going to. So if they want it to be good, they have to do one of two things. I'll put it that way. They don't have to do one of these two things, but if they want it to be good, I think they have to do one of these two things. They have to find their own innovative way to modernize it. They can't just pull a Halloween Kills and whatever the first one was. Was it just Halloween?
Talking about the 2018 one?
Yeah. Was it just called Halloween 2018?
Yeah, it was just called Halloween, and then it was Kills in 21,
and then it was Kills, and then it
Ends.
Yeah.
Ends. Yeah.
So they can't really do that where they're just like, okay, it's the same thing in the modern day. They can't really do Scream where they update the tropes for the modern day. So they've got to just find their own way to do it. Or just set it in the 70s. Just set it in whatever older time period you want. Film it gritty. And lean into those original vibes really hard. There is a third option, obviously, which is they start fighting over the rights forever and it dies like Nightmare did, and no one ever ruins it with a bad sequel. I say, as if Nightmare doesn't have 2 to 3 bad sequels, depending on who you ask.
More than that, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, well, there's one good Nightmare movie, depending on who you ask. I think there's 3 good Nightmare movies at least. But
Can I take a guess?
Go for it.
I'm going to say, if you're like me, the original, Dream Warriors, and New Nightmare.
When you say New Nightmare, you mean the
1994, Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
With Jackie Earle Haley as...
No, that's the 2010 remake.
2010 one. Okay, so unfortunate news, not New Nightmare. It is the first one, it is Dream Warriors, but I really like Jackie Earle Haley. And I thought the remake was good. So for me, I think that the remake is the third good one. I don't think New Nightmare is bad. Yeah, I don't think New Nightmare is bad. I just don't think it's like, I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy those 3. But yeah, if someone has some rights to Texas Chainsaw sitting around somewhere and they want to assert those rights and just kill that franchise for like 20 years, smart. I think you should do that.
I'm cool with it. Kill it forever. I mean, I'm hearing the ideas, and I think you have a good point. They're clearly going to do it, so sure, we can start kind of game planning what would be the best way to not make an absolute dumpster fire again. But, and again, this isn't just entirely from kind of like fanboy nerd rage, you know? It's just like, I truly just don't feel it can be done, because the idea, one of the ideas you mentioned is one that I've thought about, where you're setting in the same time period and you're practically making the film the same way. Like, what are you going to dig up the same kind of camera that Tobe Hooper and Daniel Pearl used in 1974, and you're going to produce it the same way? And once you get to that level, what's the point? Like, where you really are just doing the exact same thing again, all the way down to the production. Like, you get to a level where, like, once you're just kind of sucking it off so directly, it's like, what's the point at that point, you know? Like, that's my issue with that one. That's the only way that I think could work. But again, it just feels so pointless at that level.
Yeah. No, I think I'm with you. All right. Do we have more news? Or
I got one more.
One more. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. So New Evil Dead. It is not going to be directed by Lee Cronin, which I'm a little bummed about, because I thought his direction was pretty damn good in Evil Dead Rise. Thought it had good cinematography as well. But there is going to be a new Evil Dead, since, of course, Evil Dead Rise did very well, did well critically, did well financially, and that's about all I got. But we'll be paying attention to that. Again, Evil Dead Rise really good, so I'm excited to see what they do for the new installment.
Yeah, no, I'm excited.
Yeah, so I think that concludes news, and I saw we kind of alluded to it earlier. I watched two movies, two new releases yesterday. Again, we're recording this on the 9th. It's a Friday. I did like a back to back at the theater yesterday, and I watched Out of Darkness and Lisa Frankenstein, as Prentice mentioned earlier. Are you cool with me doing kind of a lightning round on
Yeah, I'd love to hear about
those
Out of
two?
Darkness. So
Out of Darkness, I thought was okay, and I guess I'm gonna talk spoilers on this. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I'm gonna put timestamps as the first comment. So feel free to just pause this if you don't want to be spoiled for either Out of Darkness or Lisa Frankenstein, possibly. Then just pause it and go to the timestamp for the My Bloody Valentine review. So yeah, Out of Darkness, it was pretty fine up until the third act. It's like, you know what it's about, like what it's going for. It's almost like caveman ish time period. I think it's supposed to be like 45,000 years ago or some shit. And yeah, it's just a group of early settlers, and they're being hunted by a monster, at least seemingly. That's kind of what it's giving you. It doesn't really show you much of anything. It's very much like the first half of The Ritual throughout a lot of it, where people are just getting picked off one by one. They're out in the woods, they're out in this wilderness, this harsh land that they're very not welcome in. And yeah, my issues mainly come from the end, where basically imagine The Ritual, but instead of that really cool third act and the allegory for grief and the really awesome creature design, you instead just kind of find out that like the thing that's been hunting them has just been a dude. And then it's a very over the top, overly done, man is the real monster message. And then the movie just kind of cuts to black, and it's just very lame. So that's basically Out of Darkness. The cinematography is great. The usage of the setting is great. I'm not sure where it was shot. It looks like maybe like the vistas and open terrain of like Scotland or something. Maybe that's just kind of the vibe.
Scotland.
Boom, got it. But yeah, really good use of the setting. Cinematography is pretty great. The acting is fine. I thought they did a good job of really leaning in and committing to the kind of gibberish language they had for it. You could be convinced to think that it's like an actual kind of early language, but yeah, I was pretty neutral for the most part, but the ending really killed it for me. It's not terrible. I think for me, it's like a 4, because technically it's pretty good, but just, yeah, very anticlimactic. It's underwhelming. And I overall walked away feeling pretty negative about it. When it comes to Lisa Frankenstein, I was actually more positive on that one. It feels kind of messy. There are times where it feels like the characters are kind of inconsistent in terms of like their personalities. There are some times where I'm watching it thinking like, what's the point of this scene, or like, what's the point of this dialogue? But it's a pretty fun one. You know, it's kind of self-aware. It's one where you get the vibe that everybody involved was having fun, and that it was this kind of love child and this passion project for a lot of people involved, and that they really enjoyed making it. And I can never really be angry watching a movie like that. And so yeah, it gets really wild in a way that I did not expect. It was kind of darker than I expected it to be. I went in thinking it was going to be a very boring, kind of typical, like teen-oriented rom-com coming-of-age kind of thing, and it was really not in a good way. The trailers were also deceptive in a good way. The movie itself is pretty subversive from the sort of plot you would expect from watching the trailer, is kind of what I mean to say. So the story takes on a bit of a different edge once you actually get into it. It does feel aimless at times. There are moments where it feels like there are moments where I'm watching it and I'm kind of like, okay, what's the direction here? Like, what is this building to? What is like this climax supposed to be? What is the kind of end game that you're going for with this plot and with this narrative? And it can feel a little messy and a little aimless, but yeah, overall, it's really not bad. The 80s aesthetic is like really over the top. It's a big love letter in that way, like a lot of things we've been getting for, I don't know, maybe the past 5 or 10 years or so, like Ty West movies and Stranger Things. Very colorful. The aesthetic is pretty interesting and really cool. There's a lot of kind of nods and throwbacks to early horror with like set design. The set design in particular is really fucking good in this. I loved it. Everything was a joy to look at. Catherine Newton was pretty good in it. She was a good leading performance. And yeah, it gets pretty fucking wacky. I will just say there is a scene where a guy gets his dick cut off, and there is a slow motion shot of blood splattering on the characters, and then a slow motion shot of the silhouette on the wall of his dick and balls flying through the air. And god damn it, that's worth the whole star. That's worth the whole star on its own.
10 out of 10 out of 10. Just 1 star. No, that's a perfect movie.
Yeah, best picture. No, but
yeah. No, actually.
It's like no, but yeah, I like that it ended up subverting what I thought it was going to be. I liked it more than I thought. It's definitely not perfect, but it was pretty fun. And it's like a 6 for me, kind of a light 6 out of 10, 3-star. But yeah, that's my brief kind of thoughts on Out of Darkness and Lisa Frankenstein, if you want to go ahead and get into our actual movie review of the week with My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah. So, right out of the gate, I don't have a ton to say about this movie. I didn't enjoy it. I don't think it's great. I think this movie is just I'll say this in this movie's credit. If you want to watch a classic, and I'm doing air quotes, classic horror movie, but still have a so bad it's a good experience, you could get really drunk and watch this movie, and I think you'd be there. Otherwise, why are you watching this movie in the year of our Lord 2024? There's better movies to watch.
Sure, I will say that I don't fully agree. I liked this a decent bit. I think for an early 80s slasher, this is quite good. I think this is probably one of the best ones if you're talking about that kind of Halloween knockoff slasher boom that the early 80s had. I think this is probably one of the best. I actually think this movie is very competently made, and we can kind of get into that. I enjoyed it for the most part, and yeah, I do agree with you're only really going to like this if you just want kind of a fun slasher movie to watch. There's really not much value to get outside of that, and I wasn't expecting that. I did get exactly what I wanted and what I expected, but in some ways it did kind of exceed what I was expecting, knowing how incompetent, these movies are always fun, our slasher movies from the 80s are a good time, especially like Prentice is saying, if you want to get some people around, maybe for like a Halloween party and you want to have some drinks, great time. But this one I think had a bit more maturity to it, and I do think it was actually very competently made. I'm not going to say like super well made, but competent is the right word. There were some shots that I really liked. There seemed like there was a lot of purpose with a lot of the direction and the framing. The kills are good, at least if you're able to get your hands on the kind of extended cut. There is still footage that is missing, unfortunately, that we probably will just never get. But if you're watching the theatrical cut, I would say skip it because it's really cut down. I'm not sure which version you watched.
I watched the theatrical cut, which is probably why I think that this movie is bad, because it was bad. And an extended cut, I could be convinced that this movie is better with an extended cut. But the theatrical cut, the performances, let's get into some of the more specific stuff. Did you like any of the performances in this movie except for the sheriff and the big guy with a mustache?
Hollis, yeah, he was awesome. I liked him as a side character in this quite a bit.
Did you like
in terms of the
anyone
performances
else?
themselves, not a whole lot. I did think that's one of my notes, is that the acting is pretty stilted. I think for the most part, a lot of these actors did not go on to have extremely fruitful careers, but yeah, I didn't think it was like terrible. It's far from like the worst I've ever seen. I think it's on par for, an early 80s slasher movie that came out in that boom, but it was never terribly distracting to me. But no, I won't say that I was really enthralled with anyone.
Okay, fair, because that was my biggest takeaway, like really early on, was that it's not well acted, and it's not the sort of this isn't well acted that you're like, oh, this is a fun bad acting. It's just kind of one note and bland, and characters are really just doing things to do them in a lot of it, which leads me to my second point of I don't think this is super well written, even for an 80s slasher movie. Like, it's so one note. Like, okay, so the plot of this movie is it's Valentine's Day, and all of these teenagers in question marks that work at a mine want to get drunk and canoodle and have a big party, but they're either meant to be the oldest teenagers in the world, or they're like almost 30 and acting like 20-year-olds. And you could not convince me one way or the other what the answer to that is. But they're doing their thing, trying to get their party on. And it turns out that like 20 years ago, there was a Valentine's Day. People were in such a rush to get to their Valentine's Day dance that they didn't safely exit everyone from the mine. And a bunch of miners got trapped, and this guy who was trapped in the mine became a cannibal to survive, and then became a serial killer. And now so they banned the Valentine's Day celebrations because they don't want the serial killer to come back. And now that they're having them, people start getting murdered again. That's the plot synopsis. That's all you
Pretty
really
much, yeah.
need to know. And if that sounds stupid, the movie does not make it any less stupid.
Yeah,
End of story.
Yeah, so there's a miner. His name is Harry Warden. He's one of the people who gets trapped in the mine. He survives through cannibalism because the other people, like Prentice said, all ditched to go to the dance and the party for Valentine's Day. And so he leaves like a cryptic warning. Well, actually not a cryptic warning, a very direct warning.
Everything in this
saying-
movie is so direct.
Yeah, but he leaves a warning saying, like, if you have another Valentine's Day dance or celebration anyway, I will come back and start killing again. So, yeah, it's like 20 years after, I believe. And the townspeople have forgotten. The kids who work in the mine have forgotten all about that. And Harry Warden is a distant memory. And so they all want to get together and have a nice little Valentine's Day dance because they all live in a shitty, like, roughneck mining town, and there probably just isn't shit else to do. And I'll say I like the setting a lot for this movie. It's kind of like I Know What You Did Last Summer, with like that kind of East Coast fishing town location. Yeah. I like that a lot for this movie.
Yeah, it's very like Midwest mining town, and it captures that really well. I'll give them credit for that. But then there's also a scene in this movie where the two main characters, TJ and Sarah, who is his love interest, and I guess the final girl, but there's not really a final girl in this movie. There's a final, like, 4 people. They take a car ride, and then they're just on the coast, like on a cliffside. And I'm like, that's not how a mining town works. Who's mining that close to the ocean? But yeah, but like, don't think too hard about this movie if you watch it, and you'll have a lot more fun. If you start to interrogate this movie, it's going to be bad. So don't do that. Don't be like me. Don't be like a cynical person about movies, and you'll have a lot more fun.
Well, I typically watch from that more critical lens as well. I'm definitely not oh, you just gotta tune your brain off, man, like kind of guy. And no, I thought this was actually pretty decent. Again, it's not high art. It's not like, oh my God, just give him the Oscar. But no, I don't agree. I think this is actually, even as like a film for the most part, it's rough around the edges, but I really don't think this is bad. Do you want to go ahead and get into... I mean, I don't know if I even need to ask. I think I know what your answer is, but do you want to give it our rating?
Is this an off-screen kill, or did we get the gory goods? And I want to say, I'll give it a little credit in a couple places. There's a fun killer, like the design of the killer is fun. He's wearing like a fully insulated miner suit, and he's killing people with a pickaxe. He's got like a gas mask on. That's a cool design. And there are some good performances, but for me, this is an off-screen death. I can see kind of where the charm shines through a little bit, but I just didn't enjoy this movie.
For me, the rating kind of ties into the version, both in terms of what I would give it and quite literally, because if you're watching the theatrical cut, they straight up neutered this movie. They pussified this movie so bad. The MPAA, they had beef with somebody. This was personal because they cut everything down. When they submitted it to the MPAA, they weren't even going to give it an R rating, which happens for a lot of slashers. You know, it's too gory. We're going to give this an X rating, trim it down, like a lot of Friday the 13th movies, for example. They did that, and then even when they submitted the changes that the MPAA asked for, they still were not going to give it an R rating and let it be theatrically released. So they had to cut even more. So I don't know who on this film crew or with the studio or whoever pissed off the MPAA and had beef with them, but yeah, they're clear. Like, this was personal, but yeah, if you're watching the theatrical cut, I would say off-screen death, because again, quite literally, all the kills are off-screen.
Yes.
In the theatrical cut. There's like no gore. It is totally stripped down.
Yeah,
and that's the one that I watched. I went back and I looked at the footage that was uploaded for the extended cut, which is basically just more gore. And it's a good thing. You're watching an early 80s slasher. You want that. And the actual kills are fantastic. The makeup is great. Just the gore and the effects are fantastic. And it's a real shame, not just in terms of entertainment value, but every time I see one of these slashers get cut down so bad, I really feel bad for those hardworking effects people who really went the extra mile with great practical effects, just for their work to just be entirely cast aside. But I'm going to still say gory goods, because I did like this overall. And I'm also going to rate it on that. Even though I didn't watch the extended cut, you can still get it. So like, if I wanted to watch it again, I could get my hands on it. If you're watching this and you decide you want to watch My Bloody Valentine, you can also still get your hands on the extended cut. It is a thing that was filmed, it exists, and it is publicly available. So I will say that we got the gory goods in this.
If you just watch the theatrical version, this is something I didn't really mention. There's one kill that's not off screen, I think. If memory serves me correctly, or there's two kills that aren't off screen in this that I can think of. And we'll go into spoilers. One of them is the first kill of the movie. So props there. That's not spoilers, but this is your warning. We're going into spoilers.
Yes.
If you think that you can be spoiled for this movie, my God. But the other kill is one of my favorite characters, the mustache guy. I think his name is Hollis.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, played by Keith Knight, who I believe has very sadly passed away. He was great. He was one of the only characters that I thought was consistently good at what he was doing and was just having fun the whole time, clearly. And he gets a nail gun to the face a couple times, and that's on screen. Mainly because I think that doesn't kill him. So they were like, okay, we can show that. We'll let you get away with showing that. It doesn't kill him. It's not super bloody. He just has some nails sticking out of the side of his head for like 2 minutes as he wanders around while he's got a couple DIY lobotomies in his head. And then he falls over dead. Really, I thought that effect was really well done. Fun death. Crazy to me that he was able to break up a fight between two fully grown adult men who might also be 17. One
or
of
27.
Which, or yeah, one
pick.
of which was the killer, but then he gets into a fight with him later and just completely loses.
Well, to be fair, he didn't get into a fight with him. He kind of got snuck up on in the dark and got nail gunned in the head.
Fair, yeah. That's, you know what, fair enough. But then he does a little bit of smacking around afterwards, right? And then he just kind of wanders off before he dies because he's got nails in his brain.
Yeah, he makes it back to the others in order to warn them. This is like the very end of the movie where they're in the mine, because of course the third act, when you watch this, you know the third act is going to take place in the mine if you've ever watched a movie before. So yeah, that's
again,
that's
you can't spoil this. There's like 2 plot points in this movie that you can spoil. And one of them is a twist, but only because they didn't give you any information until right at the end of the movie about the character that ends up being the killer. So there's a
Yeah.
love triangle throughout this movie. It's TJ. It's what's his name? It's TJ.
Axel.
Yeah, it's Axel, and it's Sarah, and TJ is the red herring the whole movie because he's dark and brooding, and you're supposed to think he might be the killer because it's clearly not Harry Warden. Like, it was never going to be Harry Warden. Everyone is like, it's Harry Warden, he's the killer. It's never going to be Harry Warden. Even if they weren't trying to do a twist, it was never going to be Harry Warden. But they're setting it up kind of like it's meant to be TJ. You know, he comes back to town kind of early before the beginning of this movie. Like, he left for a while, and that's why him and Sarah broke up. And so there's this love triangle between Axel and Sarah and TJ. And turns out Axel's the killer because, and again, this is almost verbatim the line from the movie that it tells you with, I want to say, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes left of the movie. But the sheriff goes, "Of course, Axel's father was killed by Harry Warden 20 years ago." And that's it. That's the whole explanation for the twist. And they don't tell you that for the entire movie. There's no lead up to this twist occurring. They just wanted you to think of TJ. It's bad. It's bad. It's really badly written.
It's not great. I don't know if it's quite as bad as like Friday the 13th level, where it's like a whodunit, where, you know, of course, the entire principle of a whodunit is that like that character is supposed to exist from the very beginning, and then in that movie, the killer just kind of pops up like going into the third act. So I don't think it's, you know, that bad and that level, but it would see it pretty clearly through a glass bottom boat if you kind of understand what I'm getting at with that metaphor. But yeah, like Prentice is saying, when the movie starts, it's TJ who left town. He was dating Sarah before the events of the movie. He went off, I think, like to LA or something. He tried to leave the small mining town and kind of make something of himself somewhere else. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, so he moves back to town. His dad, who is the mayor and who I believe is also the owner of the mine, puts TJ back to work in the mine, and Axel, his, I guess, former friend, is now dating Sarah. So yeah, that's where the love triangle comes from. And that's kind of the main source of conflict throughout the movie. And it's not a bad one. I mean, it gives you at least something to be entertained by kind of throughout the scenes of murder. And I liked that about this movie. It at least gave me something to be kind of entertained by in between the death scenes. It wasn't like some Lucio Fulci movies, for example, like Zombie Flesh Eaters that I watched recently, where you get really cool gore, you get really awesome kills, and then you're just like, oh my god, I just have nothing to work with for the next like 20 minutes until the next kill scene. Holy shit, shoot me. Where it's like you could just be better off like watching a compilation of the kills on YouTube. This gives you at least a little bit of an emotional core to a certain degree. There's a little bit of intrigue and conflict there. Again, you got kind of fun side characters like Hollis. I really like the scene early on where it's him and Axel in the bar and they're doing like the game with the knife in between the fingers on the table. I don't know what it's called. The same one in Aliens that Bishop does. That's a kind of fun scene. And yeah, I like that there were things to keep me going between the kills, and I really thought the filmmaking was not bad in this. There were some shots like you kind of mentioned toward the coast, but there's one where it's TJ and Sarah and they're speaking by like a lake, and it's supposed to be a more kind of emotional rekindling of their romance, and they're really getting their feelings out after not seeing each other for so long and not really talking. And they're having that scene, and it's more pretty. It's a well shot movie overall. The cinematography is not bad in this. This movie looks good, or at least fine. And that shot looks good. I really love the setting where like they're on the lakefront, and then in the background you have like the oil rigs. Like I love the juxtaposition of that shot of the more roughneck kind of town setting, and you see it in the background, and then in the foreground it's just them talking in this much more pretty kind of setting. And a lot of the camera work was very fluid. There's a lot of dolly shots, a lot of just kind of long tracking shots. Yeah, I thought this was really competently made. I did not think this was pure schlock like it was reviewed as when it came out. This movie got torn to pieces, not for being necessarily as like incompetent, but like just because it's an early slasher and it was seen as just like
it's not really pushing any
this
boundaries.
filth. Well, not even that.
Like
it's just like,
the
it's so
theatrical
filthy.
release, though, like just isn't pushing any boundaries.
Yeah, it's one of those where when you remember all these critics who were like, "Oh my god, this is so ghastly," we're watching the theatrical cut. It's like, man, it really it puts back into perspective.
There's
like
a clearly prop human heart.
No, but like in terms of really seeing what was viewed as really extreme violence and how that's kind of evolved and progressed throughout the years. Because again, anybody can watch this and yeah, it's neutered. And they were thinking like, oh my God, this is the most repulsive thing ever. But no, it's one that retroactively has gotten some better reviews and some more love. And I think that's fair. Again, I think this movie's actually pretty competent.
I don't think like I'd give this like a 4.5, I think probably. It's better than. Look, I will say this movie is better than some of the movies we've watched for this podcast. Namely, the 2 other holiday movies we watched.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a Wonderful Knife and Sacrifice Game. It's better than both of those. It's not like I don't like this movie not because it's badly made. I don't like this movie because I don't think anyone's really acting very well in it. I don't think it's written well. Full stop. I don't think it's written well, but it's shot well. And with the extended stuff, because I think I have seen, I don't know where where I saw it, but I think I've seen there's a death in a laundromat. I think I've seen the extended version of that, and it was better by a long shot.
Oh, it's awesome.
So clearly the people making this movie between the period when it was written and cast and when filming wrapped and then it had to be edited, clearly those people right in that sweet spot in the middle cared about this movie a lot and did their best making this. And in a lot of ways that is good. And in a lot of ways it's also really bad, like all the performances. But you're right. I think there is something good to take away from this movie, and there is entertainment to be had between the kills. But for me, there wasn't enough entertainment to make up for the fact that there pretty much wasn't any kills in the version that I watched. So it just ends up dragging really hard.
It does at least a little bit. I think we should talk about some of the kills. I think that's what a lot of people are going to want to hear about, starting with the one that you mentioned in the laundromat. And there's a lot that I love about that one. So this movie is very much a Halloween ripoff in a way. I mean, that's why it was named My Bloody Valentine. I believe originally it was just going to be named The Secret, which terrible ass fucking title. I'm glad they didn't go with that. But because of Halloween and because of Friday the 13th, they're like, no, we need to name it after a holiday or just some particular day. So it is very much a Halloween clone in that way. It was birthed in that slasher boom. But no, there's still some consideration and care with a lot of things, like that laundromat kill, where it does feel Halloween ripoff like with the POV shot. We see like the minor man, the killer POV looking through the window, and not even just because it's like a POV shot. I mean, all slasher movies have those to some degree, but it's because like it's in a laundromat and it's like the angle through this window. It's very much like the scene with Annie doing laundry in Halloween. That's why I'm saying that. But once it goes inside, I like it. So there's this character named Mabel. She's in the laundromat alone at night. She kind of walks to the back of it. I think she owns the laundromat. I believe I saw her name on the front of it.
Yeah, she's a little old lady who owns a laundromat, and she gets brutally murdered, and it's a bummer.
No, it's a great kill, though, and it's a great scene.
100%.
I like the build-up where it's one where, just like a lot of things, it's not extremely over the top, but it's at least done really well, in my opinion, where a lot of the kills are foreshadowed and set up with a Valentine's box that is left at the scene of a crime or left for the sheriff. And so the minor man walks in, sets a Valentine's box down. It's all from his POV, and then he kind of backs up and hides behind a row of dryers along the wall. And so after that, it goes back to Mabel. She walks up and picks up the Valentine's box, And I think like her thing is that she's either with or like has feelings for the sheriff, and thinks that like it's like the typical slasher kind of thing, like, oh, is this from you? And again, I like how it's shot, where when it cuts to her perspective there, the camera starts to pan and kind of swivel around her, where behind her it starts to reveal more and more the direction the miner man went, that row of dryers. And so like it's kind of like getting closer and closer to where you expect the camera to fully swivel to where then the miner man is behind her. But there's a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? There's a bit of subversion where he kind of jumps out and surprises her and kills her by stuffing her into a dryer. And it's discovered the next day by the sheriff when he checks out the scene. And again, I love the shot where the sheriff is walking through and it's like a dolly shot. It's a long one take tracking shot. And he stops for a moment and he kind of starts walking forward again toward the back of the building looking for Mabel. And just for a moment, in the very bottom right of the frame, it actually is very subtle. You can see the dryer. You don't see her body. It's not revealed yet what happened, but you just see this blood stain on the glass of the dryer. And it's a fucking awesome shot. Like, it's very subtle. It's one where, like, if you're not really paying attention to, like, everything in the frame, you actually will miss it. It's not one of those, like, fake kind of pseudo, oh, we're trying to pretend this is subtle, but we're showing it in your face. You know, we really, like, please see it. We want you to see it. Yeah, it's really great. And that's, like, where it really got me in a good way, because I wasn't expecting really any level of, like, care or consideration in the filmmaking for an early 80s slasher. So maybe it was just like my standard or my expectations were very low, because usually in these kind of things, it feels like everything is shot in a way it's just like, oh, whatever, fuck it, we'll just put the camera there, that's fine. You can see them. But yeah, it was very clearly framed in a specific way, and I love the subtlety of that shot. And yeah, the reveal is fucking awesome too, like the body falling out of the dryer, and it's just so fucking mangled.
Yeah. No, I think each of, like, if you want to be entertained by this movie, you're going to disagree with me on this, but the best way to do it is to just go watch the cut kills and enjoy the practical effects and the care that was put into them, and then dodge all of the kind of gruel that surrounds them in this movie. But also watch a couple of the scenes with the sheriff and the mayor, because they're fun together. They're clearly actual actors and they're having fun, and the performances aren't terrible. And watch like one scene with Hollis.
Yeah, make it the one where he breaks up the fight. That's a pretty fun scene.
That's a fun scene. Or the knife trick. Those are both good scenes.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah. That's the other one that was on my mind with Hollis. But
and then you don't need the rest of this movie.
Nah, and you are right. I don't agree. I think this is fine. There's also, we haven't talked about the way the movie really opens in detail, where it's just two people in mining suits, and it kind of has more of like an almost pornographic tone to start, where the music is like this kind of shimmering, more romantic score. The music in this is pretty good too. I liked the score for this movie, and like the Ballad of Harry Warden's song at the very end for the end credits. But yeah, these two people walk in and they're just alone in the mine, and one of them does like a striptease, and it's revealed one of them is a woman, and the other is the killer, where it's definitely going for more of a shock. I normally like a very more drawn out, kind of longer and more of a build up when it comes to an opening, kind of like Scream or It Follows, for example. But this one, they're going for more of a shock, to where it sets up this really romantic kind of tone. It's a Valentine's thing. They're gonna fucking get it on, and this mine, which, you know, is everybody's favorite location for sex and making out, of course. But yeah, she does like a striptease, and when like the other guy, who does not undress at all or reveal his face, sees like a heart tattoo, it like brings back PTSD flashbacks. He kind of freaks out and lifts her up and impales her. And again, it's fucking lame in the theatrical version, but in the like the extended cut, it like impales all the way through her, through the tattoo. It's really fucking cool. But I liked the kind of shock of that initial kill. They went for the other way instead of the more drawn out opening, like I mentioned. They go for a subversive thing where, again, it's very romantic, and then like a very sudden kill, because he just kind of grabs around her shoulders and just pushes her back to impale her. I like that a lot. I like the opening a lot too. And again, it's shot pretty well, where even the cinematography is more along the line of like something sensual, where it's like close-ups of their skin, and like these slow moving pans, like it really resembles something that would be more pornographic, not in like a really bad or explicit way, but like more sensual and more romantic, and then it cuts to that kill. Yeah, I think it's really well done.
Yeah, no, I really like the opening scene and the opening kill. It's one of the only kills that isn't censored in the theatrical release, like I said, so it's really good. I think there might be a little bit of censorship, like there's not as much blood as there probably is in the
Yeah.
original release, but like most of the kill is on screen. And yeah, I agree. I think it's really fun. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about the movie. I think I've really kind of covered my points of like I think this movie is kind of middle of the road even for a early 80s late 70s slasher movie, and there's some good to come from it and not enough for me to want to watch it again.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I definitely wouldn't watch it again unless it was the cut with the extended gore and kills and effects. Speaking of which, the kill for the Crazy Ralph knockoff, just in general, how did you feel about the Crazy Ralph guy, like in the bar? I like how he's in a couple scenes, and both are different scenes at different points of the movie, and he's wearing the exact same clothes and standing in the same spot in the bar behind the counter. And you can tell they pretty much just shot those like back to back on the same day.
Yeah, I think he's fun. I like the scenes that he's in to an extent. I do find him just there are like when he's explaining the whole thing in the scene with the knife game in the bar, less fun. I honestly that's probably my least favorite scene with him. Just like that whole monologue I think is really kind of weird, and I think it's writing. I don't think it's him. His death is the weirdest death in the thing. It's so again, he's meant to be like 60, but he could be 13. Like he could be written as a 13.
Mentally, yeah.
Yeah, just there's everyone in this town has been inhaling mining fumes for upwards of a decade, and it shows.
Yeah, I do like his death scene a lot, though, again, especially in the extended cut. So basically, his thing is he's, like I mentioned, a Crazy Ralph knockoff from Friday the 13th, warning of impending doom for all the characters, and he warns them to not have the Valentine's Day dance. And, of course, all the younger characters just say, like, get fucked, old man. And so he decides, like, I'm going to set up this contraption. He sets up this weird thing in, like, a porta-john or something where it's like when you open the door, a kind of mannequin-like thing that he has set up dressed in mining gear, like, raises up a fake pickaxe. And it's very weird. And that's why Prentice was saying he's, like, mentally, he's, like, 13. And it's just like a very odd scene. Yeah, he's like just opening it himself over and over, and he's so amused with himself. Like he closes the door, he'll like take a few steps away, he walks back, opens it again, and he's like laughing his ass off. It's like the funniest thing he's ever seen in his life. And he does it a few times, and then of course, as you would expect, like the third or fourth time or something, he opens up the door. It's actually the miner man, and he jumps out and kills him. But the kill is fucking awesome, where like it goes up under his chin and pops out through his fucking eye. Really, really great kill. Again, great effects. It was just A1 with that fucking awesome kill. I'm not sure if you saw that, if you looked at the extended footage on YouTube or anything, because again, we watched the theatrical cut. I watched it on Amazon when I rented it, so none of that was in there. I'm not sure if you went back and watched the more gory footage like I did. Oh, that's a shame. You
probably painted my opinion of this movie, yeah.
Well, again, I still didn't dislike it even without it. It definitely lowered my rating, that's for sure. But no, that's a really good one. Yeah, there's still really good kills in here. There's a scene toward the end that I like where one of the characters who is killed, like another guy, is opening up the fridge to grab a beer, and same thing kind of in the bottom right of the frame. You see his body, like the guy, it's a darkly comedic scene where the dude opening the fridge is like looking away to talk to someone and doesn't notice like the guy's body in the fridge, like with the beer that he's grabbing. I don't like when it cuts to the body in a close up right after that. I like the more, I wouldn't even call that one subtle, but like the more funny, wide shot. But then it cuts like a close up to be like, hey, did you notice the body here? It's like, yeah, I did, my Bloody Valentine. Thank you for that. But no, it's still pretty fun. There's some moments like that. I like the guy getting his fucking face dunked into that boiling water, which again was cut down in the extended. It's really cool. You get like a shot from underneath, kind of like the liquid nitrogen kill from Jason X. And you see like the the gore, you see the bubbling and everything of his face. Yeah, kills in this are really fucking good.
Yeah. I think I've seen just the laundromat one, so who's to say?
Yeah, but lastly, I'll say going back to the filmmaking, there's another good example, I guess maybe to maybe sway you a little more. There's that shot of I think it's Sarah and Patty, and it's earlier on. They're like in the downtown. They're like walking down through a bunch of storefronts, and they're just kind of talking about the dance and like what they're gonna wear and all that. But I really liked the juxtaposition with this, where that shot, it's another very long tracking shot, probably a dolly shot, and they do a similar scene afterward where it's Sarah walking alone at night, and it's shot from a similar angle, like kind of out in front of them, 45-degree angle out from the characters. And it's that long tracking shot, but where in the daylight, where it's them talking, it's very fluid on a dolly track. And then for the nighttime shot, where it's supposed to be like her in danger, you think she's going to walk into the Miner Man, they do the same kind of angle and tracking shot, but it's more handheld. So it's a little more rugged, a little more of that camera shake. It's not the kind of obnoxious, like the dude is having a seizure and intentionally just shaking his hands all around. It's a more natural camera shake with the handheld. That's another example of like, again, it's not like, oh, holy shit, give him the Oscar, but like that's good filmmaking. Like that's, you can tell they thought about it. They actually had some consideration into how they shot the movie.
Yeah. No, I do think there are good parts of this movie. For me, the overall experience of this movie was at best middle of the road.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But okay, but yeah, let's move on before I'm a downer for longer. This is meant to be a fun Valentine's Day episode. You have a game for me, which I don't have any knowledge about, and I'm dreading, I think.
I'm sorry. I did want to say one last thing just about the ending. We'll wrap that up because there is so they use the mine really well. Like you get down into that third act, and so there's of course they set up mine carts earlier, and they use it for kind of like a fun chase scene where it's not after, but it's Axel is the killer. He's still like the Miner Man. He's got his helmet on. I don't like that sequence very much just because it's supposed to be more of a fight. It's this long action scene where they're being chased on the mine carts as they're rolling through the tunnels of the mine. And you can tell that no one really involved had much experience with making and acting in scenes that had more like fighting and action choreography. It's very slow. All of the movements are like really telegraphed and lumbering. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I think the final fight, basically everything after the sheriff goes, of course, Axel's father was killed by Harry 20 years ago, is not good for me. Just the final fight's really just clunky and weird and slow. Like they're on this like moving minecart, but it's moving almost slower than if they were just walking. There's a fun little like pickaxe versus shovel fight for like 30 seconds, which is okay. And then it's just, there's not enough in the end of this movie to justify like calling it a final girl circuit, even though there's extra people. Like it's just kind of slow and clunky.
Well, I don't think it was intended to be like a final girl circuit.
Yeah.
We never really got that. I will say there's that scene where they're climbing up the ladder, and it's a character we haven't mentioned whose name was Howard. He's the comic relief character. He's the jokester and the prankster and all that. He has a really fucked up one early in the movie where he's pretending like to be dead, like he walked out like his throat is slit or something. It's like, dude, that's not really cool. It's not a fun prank, Howard. But yeah, his death is awesome, where he kind of drops in and he was hanged and his fucking head gets severed and his body drops all the way to the ground. Like that's an awesome fucking death. But yeah, the whole pickaxe versus shovel, I didn't really care for that either, because that's what I was referring to. It's just that's not very well done. Again, you can tell they just didn't have much experience with action and that kind of choreography. It's kind of like if you're watching training footage for like The Raid or John Wick, and the actors are like backstage or whatever, not backstage, but behind the scenes, doing like slow movements to rehearse and to practice, and then that's like the movie. Like that's kind of how it is. It's very slow, very telegraphed, and then they reveal it's Axel, and During the fight, TJ kind of breaks a pillar holding up part of the mine. It collapses onto Axel. They get away. The authorities come in, led by the sheriff. Axel cuts off his own arm to get away. And then it's him kind of maniacally laughing as it goes into end credits. Again, with that Ballad of Harry Warden song. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, that's my Bloody Valentine. You said you were at like a 4.5?
Yeah,
for this?
I think somewhere around there.
Okay, so this one, the theatrical would be like a strong 5 to like a light 6 around there. If we're counting it with the extended, which again I'm going to for my like official rating, because again that's a version that you can watch. It is available to us. It's a 7. It's like a light 7. But yeah, I thought this was pretty good, especially by early 80s slasher standards.
All right. What's this game you got for me?
All right, moving on to the game segment. This one is less of a game as the others. This is more like straight up trivia because what season is it, Prentice? Pop quiz.
Valentine's?
That too, but it's also Oscar season right now.
Oh.
At the time of us recording this. So this is Horror at the Oscars. I just have a few questions that I threw together more quickly. That is going to be all about horror's representation or lack thereof at the Academy Awards. And so we're going to go ahead and start getting through them. So firstly, how many horror movies do you think have ever won an Oscar? So not a nomination, but have won an Oscar for any category.
Okay. I know 2.
You don't got to name them, just like...
Yeah, I'm
because we'll get into more of that.
I know 2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to guess at least 2 more have probably won for sound design. And then I'm going to guess 8 total, mainly for makeup and practical effects.
Prentice, 15 have won an Oscar. Yeah, 15. So more than we thought, or more than you would think. Then obviously that's just for wins. So not all the nominations. So I guess the first real question: how many horror movies have ever been nominated for Best Picture? Can you name them?
Well, Silence of the Lambs won.
Correct.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say The Exorcist was probably nominated.
That's correct.
Alien probably wasn't.
No, not Alien.
Yeah, I'm going to say Alien was probably snubbed. I'm going to say 4. I feel like not Hereditary, but Get Out was probably nominated.
Get Out was nominated.
And then
you have 3 of them so far.
There's got to be a 4th one that I'm missing. Is it 4?
It is 6 total.
6. Oh no. All right, I'll toss 28 Days out there.
No.
Are there any?
That wasn't an American movie, so you know it wasn't going to be nominated.
Are there any zombie movies on the list?
No. So if you're talking about the Best Picture, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'll say I've got Silence of the Lambs, Exorcist, Get Out.
Correct. Right. So you have 3 of 6.
I'm gonna say The Wicker Man.
No, again, that's a British movie.
Oh, right.
So not American, no Oscar.
Okay, give me whatever hint you're about to give me. Let's see if that'll help.
Yeah, so you got 3 of 6 so far. I'm going to give you the decade of the other 3 at least to start. Mm-hmm. For one of them, it's also 70s. For the second one, it is 90s. And for the third one, 2010s.
Okay, I'm going to say Rosemary's Baby.
No, that was 68.
Ah, shit. The Omen?
No. So for the 70s, do you want the year?
Yes, I do.
75.
Oh, fucking hell. It's not Halloween.
No, Halloween was 78.
75. I don't think it's the Thing wasn't 1975.
No, 82 for The Thing. Those movies are like way too cool to be
Yeah.
nominated for an Oscar. Halloween and the Thing. Again, 1975.
1975 was Stepford Wives. That was in the 70s, right? But that definitely wasn't nominated.
No. You know this movie.
Is it? Is it Jaws?
It is Jaws.
Okay.
Jaws is a 75 movie that was nominated for Best Picture. For the second one, it was from 1999, to be more specific. These next two are going to be harder.
1999. Okay,
Yes.
I know that Blair Witch Project came out in 1999. I don't think
It is
that
not
was
Blair
it.
Witch Project.
Did House on Haunted Hill come out in 1999?
Yeah, but they would give an Oscar to that trash.
You never know. Can I get a genre?
So this one and the 2010 one, they are horror, but they are ones where maybe some people wouldn't call it horror. So they're more like psychological thriller, horror
Is it The
adjacent.
Sixth Sense?
It is The Sixth Sense. Well done.
Okay, and the 2010s was it late or early 2010s?
Early 2010s.
Early 2010s. Oh, that actually makes it harder.
It's not Cabin, I'll tell you that. Sorry.
I know. I was gonna say Cabin. Is it the Babadook?
It is not The Babadook. Again, non-American movie. It's
Oh,
Australian.
fuck, I always forget. Oh, I should be able to get this.
Again, this is one where
Is it
I think
It
a lot
Follows?
of people would not. It is not It Follows. Earlier, and I will say that it is again one where I think a lot of people would not call this a horror movie. This is, I think, the hardest one of the six, and I can also give you the year if you would like.
I'd love the year.
The year is 2010.
Oh, it's 2010 exactly. Okay, so when I said early, it was real early. Huh. And it's an American movie.
Correct.
Oh, people wouldn't consider it a horror movie. Was the Wolfman remake in 2009 or was that in 2010?
It was 2010, but that is not the movie. Though I think that was nominated for makeup or something else. That got a nomination for something.
Yeah, I remember that. And it's American.
Again, think more like psychological thriller, and I think that may be your ticket.
Trying to think of psychological thriller. Oh. Okay. If I get a director, it's gonna just give it away.
I think so for this one.
Drat.
I'm trying to think of a hint that wouldn't be too much of a giveaway, like the lead or the director or something.
Yeah, there's gotta be. There's clearly just a movie I'm not remembering.
I will let you think as long as you would like, and then you just tell me if you just want me to give you the director.
You can edit around this.
Yeah, I'll definitely just edit out more of the silence.
When
so
you
you're
say people would think of it as a thriller, would they also think of it as a drama?
Definitely, yes.
Female lead?
It is.
Is it Black Swan?
It is Black Swan.
I was just trying to think of
Darren
I stopped
Aronofsky.
thinking of horror movies. I was like, just think of Oscar movies. That's not a horror movie.
See, exactly what I said. A lot of people would not consider it horror. To me, it's like psychological thriller,
Yeah.
kind of horror adjacent. But yeah, and then of course Get Out in 2017 was nominated. And then, yes, those are all of the ones nominated for Best Picture. Ready to move on to the next question?
Yes, please.
So, what was, and you may have already gotten it from this, what was the first horror movie ever to be nominated for Best Picture?
Oh no. The Exorcist.
Yes, it is The Exorcist 1973. That was the first one to be nominated for Best Picture. And do you know how many awards it was nominated for?
3?
More.
7.
Or it was 10.
10?
It was nominated for 10 Oscars. It did not win Best Picture. Do you want to take a guess how many it won
3
out of those 10? You're close. It was 2.
2.
And it won for Best Sound and Best Adapted Screenplay, which I think at the time was called like Best Screenplay Taken from Different Source or something. It was like much more
Yeah,
wordy.
it had a...
Yeah.
Didn't win for
It was named something
makeup
different.
effects? Or was that
No,
not
I
a
believe
thing
it
at
was
the time?
nominated.
Crazy.
I think it was a thing at the time.
I would have thought that'd sweep on practical effects.
You would think so, but nope. I mean, I don't know what else came out that year that would have won.
Fair
Maybe
enough,
there was
yeah.
just some really big, yeah. Maybe just one of those where it was a stacked year for that kind of thing. But moving on from that, what was the first horror movie, and actually to this day, the only one to win Best Picture?
Silence of the Lambs.
Yes, I think you actually answered that earlier.
I
when
did,
you said,
yeah. It's the only one I was like, I can answer that one pretty confidently.
Yeah, and that's the only one to this day that's won the Big Five. It like swept at the Academy Awards. They love that shit. But yeah, Silence of the Lambs, really good fucking movie.
Yeah.
On to the next one. These 1980s horror movies, 2 of them to be exact, won the Academy Award for Best Makeup. What do you feel those 2 movies are? Horror movies, 1980s, Best Makeup.
1980s. Oh, God. Dawn of the Dead.
No, Dawn of the Dead was 78.
Was it? When did Evil Dead come out?
81.
Evil Dead?
No.
God, actually, no. They must have hated that movie.
Yeah, he got brought up on obscenity charges.
Yeah, there's not a
Fucking
goddamn
Oscar.
chance. So it's got to be a horror movie that people like enough.
Yeah, these are both classics. It's not going to be like under the radar kind of stuff. These are big movies.
Ooh. Videodrome?
No, I think it's a very good guess, but not Videodrome.
Well known. The Shining.
No.
Poltergeist?
No.
Hellraiser.
No, that's also a very good guess, though.
I'm running out of horror movies that I can think of off the top of my head from the 80s. Oh, The Thing has to have.
No. Remember,
Oh,
they didn't
right.
like
They
The Thing
hated
very
The
much.
Thing. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Fucking losers.
Christine came out in the 80s.
Correct, but it was not Christine. If you at any point want the year of the movies, I can give those.
Nightmare on Elm Street must have won.
No.
What? I'm thinking about it too much like we think about it now.
Yeah, think specifically in terms of the makeup and like the makeup effects, not necessarily
Would Beetlejuice
beloved horror movies.
be considered a horror movie?
Definitely, but it was not Beetlejuice as one of the 2.
Interesting. Yeah, you can give me some dates. Give me
Okay,
some
so for the
years.
first one, 1981, and the second one, 1986.
1981. Oh shit! American Werewolf in London.
Correct. American
Oh, I
Werewolf in
love that
London
movie.
won Best Makeup. Oh yeah.
How did I? It took me two. That should have been my first guess. And 86 was the other one.
Correct.
The Fly.
It is The Fly.
Oh, those should have both been super obvious to me.
Well, you got a lot in the 80s.
There's
so,
a lot of the 80s.
You know, it's a tough one without knowing the exact year. So don't be too hard on yourself. And I was tempted to say when you said Videodrome, no, but same director. But
that would have given away The Fly.
that would have, that would have made it too easy. All right, moving on to the next one. This horror movie from the 90s brought home Best Actress and also effectively launched the career of what actress? Well, also, what's the movie? Sorry. Poorly phrased, but this movie.
brought home they actually won Best Actress.
Correct. 1990s horror movie, and it won Best Actress. It was not nominated for anything else.
Oh, drat. That doesn't make it better. Huh. Not so it can't be the girl from Blair Witch, because that actually won some Razzies, so it can't be that.
Yeah, which is insane. Heather
Such
Donahue,
a good
I believe, was her
performance.
name.
Yeah,
She was great.
Oh my
yeah.
God. Not Ring.
No, The Ring came out in 2002. The 1998 Ring was the Japanese one. I forget the actress in that one, but no,
Is
of course
it
not her.
a movie about witches?
It is not. I'm not sure if you were thinking The Craft.
I was thinking The Craft.
No, so not Nev Campbell.
Is it a
or,
movie you love?
Veruca Balk. I like it. We don't really talk about it.
So it's not Candyman.
I don't think we ever really have talked about it. Yeah, it's not Candyman. It's not Virginia Madsen.
Ooh, it's not Cape Fear, is it?
It's not Cape Fear.
Okay.
And again, you just let me know if you want any additional hints at any
I think
point.
I'd love the specific year.
The year is 1990.
1990.
Yes.
Is this an actress who was not a scream queen?
At the time, definitely not.
In the movie.
Like, as in, she didn't have that reputation when the movie came out.
Was she a scream queen in the movie itself? Like, was she a Final Girl-esque?
No.
Is it Kathy Bates?
It is Kathy Bates.
In Misery?
And then what's the movie? Misery.
I forget that movie exists all the time.
No, it's a good
one. Great
but
movie,
she and
yeah.
James Caan. Yeah. My next hint was going to be that it is an adapted screenplay, and the original writer loved the performance.
Yeah, as we all should.
Oh, yeah. She's so great in that movie. Stephen King, it's so awesome watching him talk about Kathy Bates, seeing like, oh my god, she just completely brought this character into the real world. Like, she was incredible.
It's the exact opposite of how he feels about
awesome.
The Shining.
I want to say he's at least kind of come around, because The Shining was also one that got dunked on to some degree. That one, imagine nominating Stanley Kubrick for a Razzie for Worst Director and Shelley Duvall Worst Actress. Holy shit.
Oh my god. But you know that Stanley Kubrick would have showed up and dunked on the Razzies as an institution. If someone got in his ear and was like, you're going to win this, I bet he would have showed up.
No, I don't think he would have done... who was it who did that? Fuck, for Catwoman. Halle Berry, thank you. Yeah, the way she actually showed up.
She won an Oscar that year. She showed up with her Oscar to accept her Razzie for Catwoman.
It's pretty impressive to win an Oscar and a Razzie in the
baller.
exact same year.
Yeah,
she's out here completing side quests outside of acting. All right, on to the next one. This horror movie from the 2000s won Best Cinematography, which is quite rare, as well as Best Art Direction and Makeup.
From the 2000s. Is it well known?
Yes, definitely.
Is it a zombie movie?
It is not.
Is it a movie we really like?
Yeah.
Is it The Descent?
No.
So what were walk me again through the...
Oh, the categories that it won?
Nominations?
Yeah. So 2000s, and it won Best Cinematography, that's the big one, as well as Best Art Direction and Makeup.
American movie?
I don't think so.
Ooh, you're not sure.
No, I don't believe so, actually. No.
But The Grudge?
No. The Grudge was 2004, and the Ju-on The Grudge, made by the same fucking guy. That was 2002.
It's not gonna be fucking... Is it a Canadian movie?
No.
Okay, so not American, not Canadian.
Which one were you thinking for Canadian? Did you have one in mind?
Pontypool, which I believe is Canadian.
What is it?
Pontypool?
No, that's a good movie though.
Is it The Strangers? That's shot so well.
No, though I agree. That was a pretty well directed and well shot movie.
Can I get the year of release, please?
Year of release 2006.
2006, so middle of the 2000s. We were in the bum worst times of movies. Is it a remake?
It is not.
And we both like this movie.
We do a lot.
Interesting.
And again,
Not American.
and
Is
it-
it Pulse?
It is not Pulse. That was the year of the shit remake. The original was '01. The movie's pretty well shot too. But again, best cinematography, best art direction, best makeup, 2006.
Is it The Host?
No.
That's a banger.
Yeah, good guess though.
What other movie came out in 2006? There must have been a Saw movie. Can I lock in a Saw movie and then say that I don't know what the movie is?
So it sounds like you're ready to tap out. So I will say it is not
I'm
a Saw
ready to
movie,
tap out. I have no
and
fucking
you
clue.
love this movie.
What do you mean I love this movie? Wicker Man remake?
No, like you.
Pan's
unironic-
Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth. That is correct.
Oh my god. Oh, not American, and I didn't think of Spanish. I was like, it's gotta be Asian or like maybe British.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, I mean, non-American can fucking mean it. It can be French, it can be Spanish, yeah. But Pan's Labyrinth won for best cinematography, best art direction, and best makeup, which is all extremely well deserved. I mean, just fucking bangers on all
love
those
that
fronts. Oh yeah, Pan's Labyrinth is
I
so
should have
damn
thought
good.
that so much faster. Oh my god, oops.
Oh, it happens, man. All right, gonna go on to the next one. This horror movie from the 90s was nominated for best art direction, costume design, makeup, and sound editing.
Makeup and sound editing. Scream?
No.
That may be for costume design. American movie.
Yes, and it did win 3 of these 4 awards. It won for best costume design, makeup and hairstyling, and sound effects editing.
Candyman?
No. So Candyman's a banger. You know how much I love that movie.
Horizon.
No.
Can I get a year?
The year is the same as Candyman, 1992.
1992. Is this a movie that we've talked about at all?
I don't think so. We have not talked much about this movie, if at all. I think that always makes it a lot harder.
Is it Dracula? Bram Stoker's Dracula?
It is Bram Stoker's Dracula. Nice.
Banger movie.
Yeah.
When I say banger movie, I mean really fucking weird at times, but enjoyable as hell.
Yeah, I was gonna say like best costume design and best makeup were like really gonna be the ones to hone in on to get you there, but you didn't need it. And then we're gonna go to another 90s movie. This one's later in the 90s. Was nominated for best art direction, which it won, cinematography, and costume design.
Blade.
No.
One of these has to be Blade. American movie?
Yes, I believe so.
It won for art direction?
It did. It won for art direction, and it was nominated for cinematography and costume design.
Cube.
No.
Late 90s. American movie. Event Horizon.
No.
Sleepy Hollow?
It is Sleepy Hollow. Nice.
I had to think about when that came out. That movie could have come out in 2004.
Yeah, it feels like
It'd
such
be the
a
same movie.
Yeah, that movie, like the look of it and everything, it feels like that could be anywhere from like 96 to like 05. Like it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I always have a hard time nailing down the year for that one. Also, I'm realizing this thing I'm looking at is actually wrong now because the one I saw for Sleepy Hollow was from a different source that I pulled. And this one, where it says 15 horror movies have won an Oscar, does not include Sleepy Hollow because I guess they didn't think of it as a horror movie. So it means at least 16 and not 15. So I want to make a correction there for anyone like gets mad and burns me at the stake for being wrong. I'm going off of things that I can find online. So it means at least 16 have won instead of 15. All right. We got one more.
All right, hit me.
2017 horror movie. I'm realizing you're going to get this so quick, especially throughout all the other ones.
I hope so.
Nominated for Best Picture, Best Director. It won for Original Screenplay and was nominated for Best Actor.
Is this Mother?
No.
Wild. Get Out.
It is Get Out. I thought you were going to say it as I was naming the nominations. Yeah.
I figured it was too obvious to be the last question. So I was like, it's gotta be a trick. Mother came out in 2017 and was nominated for Oscars?
Maybe. I think that movie was just too weird for the Academy. They don't like weird. They do not like weird shit.
It's a weird ass movie.
Yeah, they don't like that kind of shit. That's why movies like Titan didn't win anything despite being fucking incredible. Because, yeah, I guess they're just all a bunch of old white men who only like very safe things. But no, I should have thought more for putting that last. It wasn't like intentional. I was kind of just jotting these down in like a random order, and then like I got to that one and I'm like, oh, this is actually like the easiest one for last. Fuck it, we'll just do one more so we don't end on that one. The 60s movie won an Oscar.
Ooh, 60s.
For Best Supporting Actress.
Psycho?
No, that's a good guess though.
Rosemary's Baby.
It is Rosemary's Baby. It was not Mia Farrow. It was for supporting actress. I forget the woman's name. You played
no idea.
Minnie. Yeah, I forget the name. Yep, that was our game for horror at the Oscars. We look forward to another Academy Award season where horror does not get jack shit. And then maybe we'll, best case scenario, we end up kind of like Hereditary where they ignore it. And then like every year on like the anniversary of the release date or something, they put up a thing honoring the movie. Like they do with Toni Collette every single year to try to repent for their sins, like to try to whip themselves and be like, please don't be mad at us. We know we got it wrong, but oh, we tweeted about her. Is that good enough? No, it's not. Give it some damn recognition.
For real.
That's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Kill It Off Screen podcast. Next time, we're actually not going to be discussing a movie. By the next episode, we're going to be in March. And what season is that, Prentice?
March Madness.
March Madness NCAA tournament season. So we got brackets on brackets. Well, actually, maybe just a bracket or two, but we're going to be doing a zombie movies bracket. We have 64 of some of the most well-known zombie movies, ranging very greatly in quality. And we are going to definitively decide the best zombie movie in a 64-team March Madness style bracket. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Kill It Off Screen podcast. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any movies you would like us to watch and possibly review here on the podcast, you can send them in a recommendation to killitoffscreenpod@gmail.com. These episodes come out every 2 weeks, every other Wednesday, and we will see you in the next one.